Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rudy Page, and I'm really pleased as part of this dialogue under our Windrush Anchor Heritage Education program. We have as our main guest this evening, Winston Wellington from the Negril Education Environment Trust. This is going to be a great dialogue because Winston is from the Windrush generation. He knows the UK well, and particularly those of us of a certain generation who will remember Four Aces nightclub in East London. You know the era that we'll be talking about and all the activities that the NEET organization, so NEET being the Negril Education Environment Trust, will be the key partner in the launch of the Windrush Anchor Three Counties Festival, which will run in Jamaica from the 15th of February right through to the 31st of May. So it's a hybrid event. So it will be physical events as well as online events. So over the next few months, you'll be hearing a lot more about that. So Winston, great to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. Such a wonderful pleasure to be here and sitting face to face with an honorable person like yourself. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on your citation that you got.
Okay.
And also congratulate you on the wonderful, wonderful work that you do internationally. And I'm proud to be a part of what you're doing.
Thank you very much. So Winston, tell us a bit about your family background, you know, where you grew up and most importantly, which parish you're from.
Of course. I was born in Mandeville, Manchester, so I was told, because I left there when I was a baby, grew up in Kingston until I was a teenager. And then from there, late teens, early 20s, I think I was just about 20 when I left for England. Okay. But my family background is I came from very humble beginnings. My mother, in those days, we called them domestic. And then, of course, like I said to you, my mother was a single parent. I have no brothers, no sisters. My father had left for Cuba, I was told. Again, didn't see him until I was like 25. Okay. But I was told that he went to Cuba. From Cuba, he went on to the Panama Canal back in those days. And then my mother also later on went to Panama on a different occasion. I myself, you know, like I said to you, grew up in the Kingston area where I went to school. I went to micro practicing school, the last school I went to. I went to different private schools, you know, up until that time. And then after leaving school, in those days, I leave at 15. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing to do but try and find a job. My uncle helped me to get some menial work and trying to learn mechanics and all of those stuff. And then the time came when my mother came back from Panama, and I had friends who were heading for England at the time. So I told my mother, there's not much here for me to do in Jamaica that I can make myself, you know, to what I would like to be. So she gave me the fare, and I jumped on a ship that was going to England back in those days. And I remember the name of the ship too is the Reina del Mar.
Okay.
And why I remember that ship so clearly is my mother also went on the sister ship to Panama. And I remember when she was leaving, she went on the Reina del Pacific. That was her ship. And I went on the Reina del Mar to England. In those days, it takes 2 weeks to get to England. My first stop was 7 days after I left Jamaica in Bermuda. Spent a few hours there. Then from there, we went on to Spain, then on to France, then to Liverpool. So I got off the boat at Liverpool I would take the train into London, where I met some colleagues, which I was staying with. I did also have an uncle that was in England, and I stayed with him for a while as well. And of course, one of the things that happened to me very early in my early stage of getting to England was I got arrested.
Yeah.
My story is that I was within 3 months. I went out looking for a job on the east end of London. Went with a colleague of mine because I didn't know the way. I didn't know anything about London, and he was there before me. And we went out looking for jobs. And we knock on doors, and we go to different factories and go to different places. And then decided to call it a day. It was getting, later on in the day. So we went to catch the bus to go home. But as Jamaicans, there was nobody in the line at the bus stop. So I just stood by the fence next to the bus stop, two of us talking, my friend and I. And as the bus came in, there's a queue started to gather. So we went to the back of the queue. And when I went to the back of the queue, all I felt was two hands grabbed me from behind and pushed me against the wall. And of course, later on found out that these were undercover police officers. Mm-hmm. And I said, what am I being arrested for? Loitering with an intent to commit a felony.
Yeah, that's the sus laws,
Yes.
Yeah.
To me, I have no idea, what I was doing. I did nothing. All I did was catching a bus, and this thing happened to me.
Yeah.
So I think maybe identify me with somebody else, because they did call a name that wasn't me or any of us. Anyhow, I spent the night overnight in jail. Yeah. Of course, I got a Jamaican lawyer, went to court, and the judge says, after I had a Jamaican lawyer who pleaded the case, he pleaded strongly that these young men, are, upright citizens and so forth. So the judge says, well, if these guys don't come back in front of us in the next 6 months, all will be forgotten. So I knew I wasn't going to do anything to go to jail or anything from then on. Not understanding what was taking place, of course. And speeding forward, around 40 years later, I'm here back in Jamaica trying to get my firearms license. And they said, you have a record. I said, what do you mean record? From England. I said, what? I didn't even remember a thing about it. Yeah. I said, this is impossible. And then I dawned on me of that situation. Yeah. And of course, the reason for me going to England was for better off myself, and so forth. And in getting to England to get a job and make the best of it, make some good money, come back to Jamaica, and I live a better life. So that was my intention in going to England when the situation took place and so forth. So I went on about my business in London. I eventually got hooked up working at a nightclub. It was on Holloway Road in North London for Club 77.
Yeah, no, I know that area well.
Yes. So I worked at that club as a bouncer, and I did everything in the nightclub. I did DJ, bartending, bouncing, and so forth. Then an opportunity came where there's a club in North London, in Highbury to be exact, called Weeks Club. And this guy was getting old and he wanted to get out of the business. So we approached him, a colleague and I approached him, and he said, yes, he'd like to get out of the club. So there's 4 of us that started that club. That's why the name was the 4 Aces. Okay. Because, yes, 4 of us in the back of a yellow Volkswagen. I remember exactly where we were in front of this club in Holloway Road when we were looking for names. So I came up with a name. I said, there's 4 of us. And I used to gamble. So the 4 Aces, came to me. I said, we're the 4 Aces. Yeah. And everybody liked the name, and we started them. However, I came to England before independence.
Yeah.
So at that time, I came to the motherland.
Mhm.
And that was my intention, to come to the motherland. You know, you didn't have to get visa, jump on a plane, you come to only to know that later on you have to get visa to go to England, you know, as a Jamaican.
Yeah.
However, I only spent 5 years in England
Really? Okay.
altogether. Yes, and I an opportunity came, you know, to me when I was in England. My father came to London. He was studying to be his PhD, become a pastor. He was a pastor, but he came to London to Leeds University, and he came and he preached at Westminster Abbey back in those days.
Thanks.
So as then I met my father for the first time, and he invited me to the United States. And at that time, I was working at Ford's Motor Company in Dagenham. I used to drive through Dagenham every morning, my little Triumph Herald along the road, and so forth.
You didn't have a Ford Cortina Mark II then?
No. I had this little mini car, man. I just love it so much. So when I came to New York, USA, that I got into the Ford's business. But I used to drive a Triumph Herald. Herald, that's what I
remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, you know, my father invited me to the United States, and the opportunity came. So I stayed with the 4 races just about a year. Then I left. Yeah. And I left it for Newton Dunbar. But I came back a couple of times, and I made an appearance at the club and introduced a few stars there, because over the years, so many top stars have been there at the 4 races, from Bob Marley and Dennis Brown, I think Rolling Stones, all those guys. In those days, I was told, I just came back to see these guys. I wasn't a part of it then. Newton Dunbar is to be credited with it. That's why I asked you if you knew the name, Newton Dunbar.
There was a time, that era of, remember when All Nations was strong? So All Nations, 4.
That's right. I remember All Nations. So yeah, that was a strong club. The Q Club, Roaring 20s, all those places I used to hang out back in the day.
Count Suckle.
Yeah, Count Suckle, yes. I knew Suckle quite well. That's right. Yeah. Yes, indeed. So those are my days. And of course, the 4 Aces Club is I think it's in the Guinness Book of Records. Some records there that the 4 Aces Club is under the banner of Legacy in the Dust. You go for it. It's the story of the 4 Aces nightclub, Legacy in the Dust. And it names all the big names that has passed through that club. Because at one time, the building was used as a landmark. So that's how come we had to get out of, Dunbar had to get out of that building. Because they wanted the building for a landmark. And then he had to close it. But like I said, I left for New Jersey. That's where my father was a pastor. So I went to New Jersey. They had a Ford Motor Company in New Jersey. And my father was able to get me my green card before I even leave London. And it was so tempting to stay. And then I said, no, I got this opportunity to let me go. I've never, lived with my father before. And an opportunity came. And I came to Metuchen, New Jersey. That's where the Ford Motor Company factory is. So I got a job there. And I worked there for approximately a year and something, almost 2 years. And while I was working in New Jersey at the Ford Motor Company, I ran into a cousin of mine at Princeton University, and he took me to New York. And I started meeting some colleagues from London and so forth and so on. So a colleague gave me a taxi to drive during the time, because what happened was every year in August, what they do, they have changeover time when they change over from one model car to another. So during that lull, I came to New York, and my friend gave me this taxi cab to drive. And what I earned in one day was what I was making in the whole factory the whole week. I had to work overtime to get $88, and that's with overtime and everything, for 6 days a week on the assembly line to get $88 for the week. And I came to New York and I drove a taxi. And in one day I was making it. But the taxi I drove was what you call in London a robot.
Okay.
We call them gypsy cab in New York. And we're talking about 1968.
Okay. Yeah.
68. So when I started driving, I didn't even have a New York driver's license. I was driving with a New Jersey driver's license. And I found that a cop stopped me one day and said, "You're driving with the wrong license, and I can give you a ticket." So anyway, he let me off the hook, got my New York license, and then I run into a couple of friends from London, and I was telling them about making money with a gypsy cab, and they were interested. So the long and short of it was, I opened a taxi cab company in 1969 that lasted for over 50 years. I think it's still going on right now.
Right.
But I gave it up around 15, 20 years ago. But that was an experience all by itself. Because what happened was that back in those days, people of color could not get a taxi cab to get them anywhere. Mm-hmm. A yellow cab, that's the official cabs that they use in New York, would pass a black person by, turn it off, do the sign off, and go on and leave you stranded. So hence came the birth of the so-called gypsy cab industry, in which I was a pioneer in those days. Mayor John Lindsay at the time created the Taxi Limousine Commission, in which I was selected to be on the advisory board. Okay. And I stayed on the advisory board for 25 years. And I became head of Taxi Cab Association for 25 years. And during those years was quite a tribulation for me. I must tell you one thing that happened to me in London. I was in Muswell Hill driving home one night from the club, and there was a car parked straight ahead of me. In those days, you only drive with your amber lights, with your park light or amber light. So car that was facing me had a bright light on, so I dimmed my light for him to turn it off. Wouldn't dim my light. Anyway, I drove up to the car. 4 guys jump out. This is during the Teddy Boy days. 5 of them, 5 Teddy Boys jumped out on me the night. And of course, I jumped out the car trying to defend myself and so forth. And the long and short of it, they smashed my window and then drove off. So I grabbed the brake and I run down their car and smashed back the back there. And he's like, so anyway, in that circle right there at Muswell Hill, there in that circle, they were chasing me and trying to drive up on the sidewalk and all those things. The long and short of it, I reported to the cops, and the cops found the car with a smashed window, which was a stolen car that they were driving in. And my case went all the way up to the Old Bailey, because, of what the situation is. These guys were doing wrong in the neighborhood, and nobody would go to court and testify against them. I followed the case from Stoke Newington all the way up to the Old Bailey to see them go to jail. One got a year, one got 6 months, and some got out on bail. But when I was coming out the car, one of the guys punched at me, and I ducked, and he knocked out his friend. When I told the story at the Old Bailey, everybody thought the judge had to knock his. So that was the truth. So that was one of those situations that I faced in London too. Mm. So rolling back to New Jersey now, I worked on the plants for almost 2 years. That's the Metuchen plant of Ford Motor Company. And the workers weren't being treated right. And I joined this gang of people who spoke out against them as a rebel. Of course. And so when the opportunity came for me to get driving a taxi cab, I I slipped out and I went to New York. And that in itself has been a tremendous journey. I've had all kinds of stuff happen to me in New York. I went back in the nightclub business again in New York. And in that business, I opened a nightclub in a predominant white neighborhood. And the third night after opening, these guys came, tried to storm the club. Again, a racial situation. They painted KKK on the club, you know what I mean? I ended up getting 2 stab wounds in my side, 1 in my back. I was on the critical list of Kings County Hospital for 9 days. Everybody thought they had lost me. So again, another racial situation, I faced. Only this one again. And same thing with the Teddy Boy, was a racial situation, back in those days. And I've had this problem with, being somewhere along the line.
You're at the forefront. You seem to be at the forefront of that battle.
It follows me.
That was the reality of the time.
Yes. So I had the Oasis International nightclub in Brooklyn, and that was quite a bit of challenges too. Like I said to you, these guys stormed the club one night, and that was what took place, and I got stabbed and so forth. However, that didn't last too long. I decided that I wasn't going to give up my life for something like this. So I got involved with some guys, and they were mafias, and black mafias, and they wanted to take over the club. And I said, you know what is true? I own this thing here. I closed the nightclub, and I went away on what we call a fam trip.
Yeah.
I used to be a travel agent back in the days, and I, go from traveling all over the world. And I got a trip to the Fiji Islands, and that's where I met my children's mother. Got married down there, came back, closed the nightclub, and gave it up. And
you cooled down. You decided to cool down.
Cool down. So that in itself was a trip.
Yeah.
And out of that marriage, I have 3 wonderful children, which I raised by myself because that marriage itself only lasted like around 4 years. So I had my 3 boys since they were babies, and I brought them up by myself. Yeah. And hence, I'm able to retire, and they take over and run the hotel while I focus on my my education business. But in New York was quite a challenge because, like I said to you, it's gypsy cab. They chase you all over the place. We had many different dramas. Our association, the cab, we have blocked Triborough Bridge. No cars could get in, no cars could get out. Yes, in protest of how our treatment were. Yeah. And we did it with the Brooklyn Bridge. All this is in the New York Times. They have the recording of this. Back in the days, we got the cars together, some coming from the Bronx, some coming from this. Because I had my association, we had something like 25,000 guys, and these gypsy cab were coming from different companies, from the Bronx, from Brooklyn, and everywhere, descended on the city and blocked traffic because they were ticketing us to death. So that was part of my revolution.
So Winston, what was the general reaction from the Americans that you, as a Jamaican, coming and being at the forefront, following in the steps of Marcus Garvey?
Yeah. Well, what it is because the Black Americans, of course, a lot of them used to drive for me in the early days before I employed, because my fleet of car went up to 300. At one time, I had the largest, what do you call it, gypsy cab car company in New York. Okay. We had over 300 cars, and we saturated the Brooklyn area and so forth. Winthrop Car Service. I believe it's still going on. No, I haven't been into New York in quite a while, but up until a couple of years ago, it was still going on. I'd literally give it to one of my drivers and so forth. He passed away and passed on to somebody else, and so forth. But it was, like I said to you, it was out of the need that we created that industry back in those days, because there was no such industry. People of color just couldn't find a way to get to work or to get to the train station and so forth. So, and because of the yellow cab, they opened the door for us by that. So we created an industry that, again, we were hated by the yellow cabs. We were hated by, certain people, but we survived. It was a matter of survival.
As always.
Yes, it's a matter of survival. So there was a many traumatic situation took place. I eventually, while I had the association, I had a 4 service station at one time, parking garage, and the taxi cab company. And then I ventured out into the travel business. I became a travel agent. And during my tenure in the car service business, we call it car service. It's no longer gypsy cab, car. It's car and limousine because we graduated into limousine.
Moving up.
So we had limousine. We've had some famous people who rode our limousine back in the days. Whitney Houston, Bobby Brown, you name it, and many others, notwithstanding when we had a club and many famous people come to the nightclub as well. And so again, so during my tenure in with the taxi cab business, I was in a position that there's a guy used to come to me every Monday morning, and he has papers this thick with like 30 names of people who wanted to come into the United States. At that time, I used to be a notary public, and there in the US. And I would, and these guys would bring these forms to me, and I'd stamp them. But what he did was he advertised for jobs in an unknown paper. So nobody applied for the job, so he can bring them in the country. Would you believe it? Over a 10-year period, I've helped to bring in more than 5,000 persons to the United States.
Really? Excellent.
Since I've been here back in Jamaica, I've helped to get at least 1,000 to Canada and the United States as well.
Right.
So, in other words, so I noticed you had mentioned something about my passion. I have a passion for helping others.
Yeah.
Growing up, and I said, if I ever get in a position to help anybody else, I would. I was always a children lover, and I said I also got involved with the travel business, and I was fortunate to have traveled to over 100 countries.
Wow.
At least 27 out of the 54 states, African states, 27 African countries, all the Caribbean, North and South America, you name it, Europe, Russia, South Africa, you name it. I've been I was a fam trip king.
Okay.
Wherever there's a fam trip going on, hence the idea of me going to the Fiji Islands and meeting my ex-wife and so forth. So incidentally, I have also one son that still lives in London, and he's given me 2 grandchildren so far. So he lives in Peckham or someplace like that.
Yes, Southeast London.
Yes, yes. I think he's moved from there. I think he's moved from there. I'm not sure of the other.
Okay. So Winston, let's now talk about Jamaica and your role and your thinking behind the Negril Education Environmental Trust. And what was your thinking? What was how did you get it established?
Well, in my travels, Africa and even in Haiti, I used to travel and I would take candies for the kids. And then I went to African countries and they asked me for books. So I started traveling with books wherever I go. And I handed them out to, even in Haiti, I give books. I see guys reading under the light post at night and I pass by, I give my book and so forth. So I started gathering books in my garage in New York. And a friend of mine, he now passed away, wrote a book called Marcus Garvey's Head. That's the name of the book. It's quotation of Marcus Garvey. Ken Jones, he's now passed away, and he wrote the book. And he gave me 1,000 copies of them. And I came down when I was coming down to Jamaica. I gave them to the Ministry of Education at that time to donate them for the schools of Jamaica. And incidentally, I eventually got the Marcus Garvey Award. Not for that session, but I eventually got one award for the Marcus Garvey. But yes, so education is something that I've always cherished, and I know the key to anything in life is to be educated. And most of my education came from my travels. Traveling around the world, I learned so much, it's unbelievable. So I started gathering books. I know how come I got involved. They made me chairman of St. Paul's Primary right here in the Negril area. And so when I was giving books to different schools here, she says, head teacher says, we don't have a library. And what am I going to do with the books? So hence I formed the organization called Negril Education Environmental Trust. And I started to donate books to the different schools. I've been fortunate to have built almost 20 libraries. Brilliant. Each library is equipped with 10 computers and 1,000 books for the most part. So I have them all around the Western area, all the way up to Mandeville. I've had libraries that I've built, and I've donated thousands and thousands of books. I have a colleague.
Just before you go on,
pardon me?
Just before you go on, why did you decide to settle in Negril? What made you go to Negril?
Oh, Negril. Of course. I was a travel agent, and I've traveling around the world, and I oftentimes bring people to Jamaica as part of my inner travels. And I fell in love with Negril. It was in the raw stage then, because there wasn't that many hotels built up along the main road. And I just fell in love with Negril. And an opportunity came. I first of all, I invested in the Fiji Islands. I had a second largest rent-a-car company in the Fiji Islands there. And then an unfortunate situation happens to me with that company, where my partner tried to steal a company down there in the Fiji Islands. And during his quest to steal the cars and put it in another company's name, he got killed in a car crash. And both he, cousin of his, and the head mechanic who were trying to steal the company got killed in a car crash. And then when I went down back to the Fiji Islands to straighten things out, his wife, they were Indians. His wife committed suicide by hanging herself in the middle of town on a manga tree because of the shame that took place in that situation. So we had, like I said, the second largest rent-a-car company on the island at the time. And that was called, forgot the name of it for right now. Yes, right. Yes. So, yeah, yes. What's the company that Mr. T has again? Mr. T, you know the guy.
All right, yeah, I remember him. In that series, they were like,
well, that's the name of the company. I couldn't remember it. Yeah. So anyway,
so back in back in Negril, you were building up.
Yes, I was saying back in Negril now is because I got rid of my holdings in the Fiji Islands. I said that had I invested in Jamaica, I probably would have been better off. But at that time, it wasn't the right time. So, however, I saw this piece of land available on the ocean, and I grabbed it and I built it from scratch. So there was no building there; it was like jungle. And whatever you see now is what I built from scratch to be the hotel, the Travelers Beach Resort now. It hosts 60 rooms. And when I turned age 70, I had a big party, and I had my 3 boys there, and I handed them the keys, and I gave everything I own away. I own absolutely nothing.
Really?
Because, yes, even the house I'm staying in now, it's not mine, it's theirs. I gave everything away because I know that my next stop, they don't use money there. And I say, once you've been blessed to have gotten what the Bible promised you, 70, you're on overtime. You understand?
You're still going.
Yes. And not only that, I'm also in the departing lounge, but I'm hanging out in first class.
Yeah. All right, you
All right.
keep hanging.
So
You still got some more work to do.
yeah, yeah. So I only need one bed to sleep, and I don't need so much. So my needs are: my sons treat me well, whatever I need. I need a plane ticket; they get it for me. I need so I have no need to touch money or to deal with money whatsoever.
Yeah.
The only thing I do is with my charity, which is the education program, which I am very passionate about, and we've been going now for some 20 years, and over those years. There's a gentleman by the name of Dennis from Dennis Shipping. He ships all my books and computers free of cost for me from New York. And I've given more than 4 million books away across over those 20 years. Yes, indeed. And to different schools, churches, you name it, I've donated books to, and computers. And I've graduated from my tablet classes more than 3,000 children and parents. Because in the tablet classes, a child cannot attend without a parent.
Yes, that's right.
So it's children between the age of 9 and 14. And it's an 8-week course. And we teach them, it's structured on the four pillars, the 4 pillars of success, which are punctuality, honesty, a good attitude, and discipline. And we also teach them the 4 P's, your passion. What did you do the passion? You practice, you pray in it, and have patience and let God do this work. And that's the framework of which the organization, the children are taught, and parents. And I demand 100%. I've been having some wonderful, wonderful results. And many of my, one of my sponsors, he gone on to become a pilot. He's now one of my children, rather, that has been through the program, I've gone on to do other stuff. The one that went on to become a pilot, we helped to sponsor him become a pilot. But the other children have gone on to do many different things in life. So we're very proud of that. So again, it's an 8-week course, and we have the teachers that come in and teach the children different things, sometimes Spanish, different areas of education, stuff that they not normally would have learned in school. Right. And we bring in guests for each class, from somebody from the police, somebody from the bank, you name it. There's always a guest there to teach them something out of the classroom that they would not normally learn in the classroom. So that's basically how the class is set up. And after 8 weeks, they graduate. And during that period of time, we have 1 week when we take them out on the glass bottom boat to see the reef, so they know about the environment. 1 week, every child has to plant a tree. We have an area in which a child plants a tree as part of the environment. And we have beach cleanup. 3 times a year, we have beach cleanup. We're sure enough to clean the beach. And on one of those weeks, the children save their money and we buy groceries and they take it to the Clifton Boys Home. So each cohort, we have a bus that takes the children to Clifton Boys Home and give groceries away. So we teach them to give back, not just take it. Brilliant. Every child who graduate with a tablet in it. And on the tablet has our Bible, our national anthem, our national pledge, encyclopedia, a thing called Khan Academy, revolutionary way of teaching maths and science, plus a set of do's and don'ts. Boys cannot wear their pants below the waist, girls have to dress appropriately, anger management, proper parenthood, each one, and much more. So this is all part of what is comprised in that 8 weeks that they are with us. And we're very proud of, the graduates that we've had. And, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful trip for me. And it's been going on now for, like I said, almost 20 years.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah, so that's quite a mouthful, eh?
Yeah.
I didn't give you a chance to say. Yeah.
But what you've done as well, you've brought us nicely into where we are today now and where we intend to go in the future. And I'm glad that Dean Roden has joined us.
Indeed.
So if we think about, and what is great is that your connection with the UK, so you're of the Windrush era, you're of the Windrush generation, so you understand the context of what we're doing under the Windrush Anchor Heritage Education Program. Your team from NEET were an integral part of the inaugural Windrush 5 Communities Anchor Festival in August Town, which took place a few weeks ago, which was significant. And then now that you're, for next year, well, before I go to next year, next month, I should say, where we focus on the coastal cleanup in St. Thomas, Grants Pen area. Once again, your team, an integral part of that. So Dean's going to talk about that. And of course, next year, for what's now known as the Windrush Anchor 3 Counties Festival, which will go from the 15th of February, launching at Travelers Beach Resort in Negril with activities with NEET and all of your team. And then the festival then spreads right across March, April, which is going to be hybrid, lots of online activity. And then once again, we all return back to Jamaica in May for all the activities, the Labor Day activities, Windrush Descendants Day, and then Africa Day. So it's going to be a great 3 or 4 months of activities, and it's all starting at Travelers Resort as a host, but in partnership with Negril Education Environment Trust, which is really important because when you look at the whole focus on the Jamaica's 2030 development plan, and it has 4 goals. So there's four goals that align with the diaspora involvement in Jamaica, and they're shared. So the first goal is around human potential, the development, and of course that starts with the young people, and it certainly starts in the neighborhoods. The second one is around security and justice. The third one is a prosperous economy, and the fourth one being a healthy environment. So again, that work at that neighborhood and getting young people to understand the importance of the place that they live in. And of course, we all know about the overall challenges around climate change, but thinking about the environment, and we talk about the neighborhoods in this way. So we talk about it's important to inspire inclusive, peaceful, caring, and enterprising neighborhoods and local communities. So that's the broad framework of our activity. And then what we're saying to young people, it's about upholding the values of respect and inclusion as the common ground for all, regardless of background, culture, or status. And then what we're saying to adults as part of this, young people need somewhere to go. Young people need something to do. Young people need someone to show them how. And if you meet a group of adults in their meetings and they're complaining about young people, then we ask those adults, do the young people have somewhere to go? Do the young people have something to do? And is there someone to show the young people what they must do for themselves? Absolutely. In terms of mentoring. So all of these values with our team from the UK connects directly with NEET, and I'm so pleased. And then linked to that is Dean Roden. I'm going to bring Dean in now. Dean, just give us a quick introduction and the connection in the work that you're doing with NEET. So tell us about Let's Talk Under the Regulatory, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
I must feel so honored to be in the presence of two great men. You know, when I would listen to Mr. Neath, and I said, when I grow up, I really want to be just like you, man. You know, you know, and it's an honor that you have made connection. You know, Let's Talk Under the Regulatory. It's focused on young people. And in the time of COVID, when we couldn't do indoor, you know, we start this online global program. And NEET was my first connection.
Indeed.
You know, with up until today, NEET had guided me through. They have been my mentors. And listening to you, I know I don't regret a minute that I've been working with you. You know, most of my children, they are from NEET. And what Let's Talk Under the Reggae Tree, you know, with my over 40 years of community service working in different parts of community work, you know, as president of Citizen Association, Neighborhood Watch, Scout leader, you know, we tend to, you know, like a program for the children. But let's talk on the tree. We listen to what Mr. Page say, we listen to what the children want, and they tell us what they want. And some wants to be pilots, some wants to be, you know, teachers, and then we provide mentors for them, you know. So it's more the child tells what we want, and then you need an adult to show them how, and that's where the adult comes in, and we provide the mentorship program for them. And NEET has been one of our, you know, we have successful students. Our first ambassador, what we do, we are from the age of 6, and once they graduated from high school, going to college, and we started, you know, it's a 3-year program now, and our first ambassador, which is Topal, is from NEET, and she's one of our first ambassador. We're going to be having, you know, a boy and a girl ambassador. So once they're in the program, and they get out of high school, going to college, or they have achieved something successfully, we have 2 ambassadors, one in the United States, one in Jamaica. And if we have some different, we're going to expand into the Caribbean now. So we're going to be having ambassadors in the different countries that we located in, because it's global. So once again, it's a pleasure for just listening to you. You empowered me. You have strengthened me. I know that I'm in good, safe hands. And I commend you for the work that you are doing. You know, and I can tell you, each student from NEET, once it comes on the program, you can say, yes, that's a student from NEET.
Yeah.
There's something about that.
Outstanding, the discipline, just their approach.
They came, yeah, man, they came to Augustown and support us at the Windrush. And I tell you, I was very real appreciative. And we're going to be coming down this year with a bigger program. I spoke with the lawn tennis, Noel Rutherford. He plays lawn tennis for Jamaica, and they are expecting us. We're trying to get maybe the West Indian cricket team or Jamaica cricket team to be there.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a whole festival. All the reggae family meet on the ground, you know. So, you know, our program, it's a global program. So all the kids from across the island is gonna meet on the ground of the university campus. So we're gonna be having dandy shandy, all the different sports you can think of as a festival, you know. And Hermitage, you know, within that community is where Professor Barry Chevron started what we call a cultural day. So I have, with my experience growing up, that's where the first dancehall start, where the first Connolly start, Miss Lou, Ronnie Williams, that's where most things started in Jamaica. So we're gonna try. So we have that experience, personal experience. So Augustown have all the legacy of history that, you know, we just, it's there already. We just need you guys to be there to come and enjoy it, you know?
But the festival itself is known as 3 counties. So we're working with across the island.
Yeah.
It's important that we demonstrate next year that, you know, it's about Cornwall, Middlesex, Surrey. It's about all the young people and across all the neighborhoods and communities. Because as you probably know, Winston, Jamaica, there are actually 775 communities that make up Jamaica. 775. And all those communities, we know there's a diaspora perspective to those communities. So our focus is to be, you know, inclusive across the island. And, you know, we started to build relations with the Neighborhood Watch movement, because that's a movement across the island. And what's important as well is the integration of your hotel, you know, Travelers Resort in Negril, with the Negril Education Environment Trust. And why that's important going forward, we have organizations that we recognize as being what we call anchor organizations. These organizations are set in neighborhoods, in the local community. They focus on the skills of young people. They focus on the goods and services that can be supplied from within the neighborhood and the local communities, which are really important. And then at the same time, they're outward looking. They're outward looking, and the outward looking becomes very easy because if you've got people from the diaspora who came from that area, grew up there, or their families grew up there, so they're already connected into the three major jurisdictions of the UK, USA, and Canada. And as you've demonstrated, they're in a position then to provide support back into Jamaica through their networks and through their passion to, you know, go back to where they've come from or their families' ties are to make a contribution to the country. And so this program is called Community Economic Tourism. And that's how we define it. And this is born out of the UK. We have programs around community renewal, urban renewal. And then we've aligned that with Diana McIntyre's approach of community tourism. As you know, Diana McIntyre Pike is really the hero and the founder of that term, community tourism. The economic element of it comes from the UK experience, and you understand about neighborhood development, urban development, from that societies that we come from. So what we've done is bring the two together. So and we talk about the synergy. So we use the synergy. So we work with the organizational systems and the structures in terms of the locality. And all of that now is an integral part of the Windrush Anchor Heritage Education Program. So we now define community economic tourism, from which Travelers Resort and the NEET organization is the anchor organization within Jamaica. So this demonstrates the importance of community economic tourism at the local level, using a cross-cutting approach that involves diaspora networks. The program focuses on bridging cultural gaps, and you've said that in terms of the young people, through cultural enterprise, heritage education, intergenerational dialogues, and connectivity. So this is a systems and cluster collaborative approach for inspiring, inclusive, peaceful, caring, and culturally enterprising neighborhoods and local communities. So an integral part of our program, again, the driving forces, we talk about Paul Bogle, Alexander Bedwood, and our third one, Dean, I'll let you tell the third one.
So we have Sam Sharp, you know.
Sam Sharp. So
yeah.
it's the three. Sam Sharp, Paul Bogle, Alexander Bedwood. So that spiritual underpinning.
And I
all our hold on a sec, Dean. Of all these activities are really important. So given what Dean has outlined to you, be interesting to get your perspective now, Winston.
Yeah, yes, very, very, very interested. And of course, like I said to you, I'm very proud to be a part of such the organization and what you're trying to do, and anything that I can lend a hand to. Of course, you know, the resort is there, and as long as there's nothing going on, it's always available to that use. Our children, especially from the children point of view, we do have these graduates, and we do have some bright students. So whenever we can get them involved in any of the above stuff that you speak for. We're very delighted to be a part of it. As Dean will tell you, he calls and we have them available, and they are at our disposal.
Yes. So the other important point to that is that for next year, then we've agreed with your staff from the 15th to the 18th of February will be the actual launch of the Windrush Anchor 3 Counties Festival. So it all starts in Negril, all starts at Travelers Resort Negril in partnership with NEET. So we are really looking forward to that. So, Dean, sorry, carry on, Winston.
Yeah, I was just about to say, you are, the head of my program is Ms. Jean Brown. Yes. And I would love for you to, dialogue with her directly. As you know, I'm a little bit handicapped at the moment.
Don't worry about that. Your leadership, and I spoke with Jean Brown, yes, and Terry Ann. So these dates are all agreed. We're up right. So that's what I'm really saying. Your team has taken great care, and we've been through in detail how we're going to collaborate. So absolutely, your side is in safe hands. Really
right. I just wanted to let you know that they are at your disposal. The both names that you mentioned at any given time. Reach out to them, and they'll do all the follow-ups for me. And you have my complete backend for that.
Great. Thank you very much. So Dean, just a final word before I go back to Winston to close the program.
Yeah, I would just want to say the connection between the Alexander Bedward and Paul Bogle, the healing stream started out of the rock of August, so where Alexander Bedward is and Thomas, where Paul Bogle is. So that connection is even deeper than us,
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. So Winston, I'm going to leave you to have the final word before we close. Thank you.
Yes, the thing I'd love to see adopted to the program is, as you know, if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. With the children, I would love to incorporate more of their African, background. Especially, you are aware of what's happening in Africa right now, and I would love for the children to be, to be able to understand from whence they come at, and that we stand on the shoulders of a Marcus Garvey, Patrick Lumumba, Martin Luther King, and they too now must stand on our shoulders to move forward. So we are, as elders, have to pass on as much, as possible to them. The other thing that I would like to make mention of is that AI is here. It's going faster than we think. And I'm saying to you, it's going to be a big disruption in the education system. It starts doing that already. And so I'm asking for everyone to do as much research as possible on AI, because as we know, education, another year or two is not going to be the same thing at all. Absolutely. So we have to be able to incorporate what we can get. And there's so many AI things out there now, it's unbelievable. So we have to be on the ball. The children have to be on the ball with that too. So in my closing, I'm asking us to just make sure that we do our research and we pass on that.
Right. So thank you for that. And I can answer both those questions in terms of for next year. So as part of the Windrush Anchor education program, we include the African diaspora, and on the 25th of May, that is Africa Day. So we've been involved with that for the last few years. So that will be an integral part and of the program. But what we will do is raise the profile of it, as you've mentioned. So we have strong links already with Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. And during that period of time, particularly between March and April, because the festival is hybrid next year, we'll ensure that there will be speakers from those cultural backgrounds as an integral part of the online activity. So thank you for that. And then, as you had mentioned before as well, the round table that will be taking place during that period of time at Travelers Resort will be AI and education. So our theme will be understanding AI and education. So we're going to use that as part of our awareness raising. And of course, once you've raised awareness, then it allows you then to improve people's understanding of the area. And then we'll talk about then what the call of action is. So we're going to take the normal 3-step process in terms of getting any information into our communities. You start with awareness, raising awareness, and then it's about community understanding. How do you ensure that people can understand? And then the 3rd step is a call to action. What do we want the people to do? And how is that going to translate into them using their skills and talents that can be then translated into economic value for themselves and the community? So thank you very much. It's been great. See you again soon. Thank you very much, Dean, and good night all.